Is it okay with you all if we go ahead and get started?
Yep, I think we're good.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this morning. If I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Carla Morales. I am the new Vice President for the Arizona Technology Council in the Southern Arizona office. And I look forward to connecting with all of you throughout the months and connecting individually. But happy to have you all this morning for the virtual breakfast series. Today's virtual breakfast speaker series event is presented by AVI-SPL, and the topic for this morning is the future of work, a question that we've all been asking ourselves as we transition out of this pandemic into a post-pandemic world. So we have a great lineup of panelists this morning speaking about the future of work. At this moment, I'd like to ask everyone to please mute their phones or turn off their cameras. While we are very happy that you are welcoming us into your home or into your offices, we'd like to ensure that the focus is on the panelists for this morning. Thank you so much for that. I'd also like to mention that there's currently sponsorships available for future speakers series events and all other Arizona Technology Council events. All of those events can be found on our website at arizonatechnologycouncil.org. Or you can always email Jamie Nielsen, Lee Golson, or myself at events@aztechcouncil.org for more information about those sponsorship opportunities. For today's event, we ask that all questions be put on the chat, and the moderator will compile the questions and pull from there. You can also use the raise hand option, and we will call on you to unmute for the questions at the very end. At this moment, it is my pleasure to introduce you today's moderator from AVI-SPL. Please welcome Matt Simmons. Matt, the floor is yours.
Hi guys, thanks Carla. So as Carla said, we appreciate you guys joining us. There are certainly a lot of invites nowadays for webinars and things like that, so we really appreciate you joining us for ours. Little quick bit of information about AVI-SPL. We are primarily a digital workplace services provider. We work with companies basically to improve team collaboration amongst their organization. So as you can imagine, it's a very busy and exciting time for us right now. We spend a lot of time helping companies design, implement, support, and optimize all the equipment that needs to go into their offices and home offices to keep all the employees connected right now. We are AVI-SPL. We are in 57 offices across the US, Canada, UK, and UAE. Specifically, we have an office in Phoenix as well as one in Tucson. We have quite a bit of technical depth and experience in the market to help companies of all sizes. We like to tout that we are doing business with 86% of the Fortune 100 companies. 3,400 plus employees, do a lot of work in education and government space. And one of the unique things about us is that we place, in addition to all the integration of all the equipment, we have many employees embedded at large companies to kind of augment IT staff, help manage all of this new technology. So our agenda for today is basically going to address what we're seeing as what we're hearing about the future of the new workspace. We have Rebecca Meyer and Kevin Rolls from AVI-SPL. They're going to talk about workplace transformation and trends, what they're seeing in the commercial space across the country. We have Melissa with Poly, one of our vendors, is going to speak about different technology profiles and work styles that we're seeing. And then Brent Stark's going to close it out, and he's going to talk about kind of bring it all together and with when you have all this technology, now how do you optimize and manage and measure it to make sure you get an optimal workplace experience. And at the end, as Carla said, just any questions you have, put in the comments. We'll address them at the end. And we're also going to have a drawing at the end. Poly was kind enough to donate some Bluetooth remote, speaker phones for your computers and your cell phone. Very nice devices. So we'll be able to raffle some of these off based on attendance. And if you do participate and have some comments, you'll get an extra drawing in to win the prize at the end. So we really appreciate you coming, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Kevin, I believe, is going first. Right, Kevin?
Yeah, that's right, Matt. So hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin Rolls. I'm an Alliance Director at AVI-SPL, who is leading the partnership and relationships between CBRE as well as Cushman & Wakefield. So my experience is really centered around the commercial real estate space, and a space that really over the last 14 months has been rather tumultuous, as I'm sure everyone can imagine. However, tumultuous times often bring innovation, and the slide that we're sharing right now is there are a lot of digital solutions out there that can really drive the user experience. As we look at what the future of work brings and how that's going to evolve from pre-2020 to whenever there is a mass return to the work, technology really is going to be at the forefront of it. We've already seen some adoption into trends that as we look at these 6 different work streams on screen, technology really was not a part of the entry and exit points previously, but now in terms of leveraging technology for wayfinding, for mass temperature checking, and creating automation, what that can really do, and what we found is that is an enablement tool that helps create a bit of a mental safety net for people to feel willing and able to return to work, as everyone is kind of in uncharted territory. Never has it been more prevalent that it's important to have a strategy out there for remote workers and how that's going to be enabled. Having standards, having the ability to scale very quickly. So there are a lot of technology solutions and digital solutions that are really since COVID disrupted the world, that have been mass adopted, and companies are now trying to work and put together standards to be in place should something like this happen again. I was recently completing an RFP, and in one of the questions, which typically was isolated to, hey, what's your company's, or be branded somewhat like this, what is your company's disaster recovery plan? Well, the wording of that question has now been tweaked to, in the event of a natural disaster or pandemic, what is your company's recovery plan? So there's certainly aspects that I can't imagine COVID will not have changed for many, many years to come. At the forefront of our experience, and this has always been an area that we've led in with, is really around the meeting space and the workspace, and having technology create automation and create the ability to connect and streamline things. The average meeting starts 16 minutes after the hour because, lo and behold, most of the time the technology is not working, whether it be a phone within a meeting room to call out to a remote participant, whether the video technology wouldn't work, whether the room booking tool has scheduled 2 people at once. There's challenges everywhere. Working with us and working with our partners like Poly, and we have the technology in place and the talent to try to make sure that this technology works for you and transforms that user experience. The workplace is no longer going to be just about coming in 9 to 5. Most remote participants, most CEOs and CTOs are expecting a partial return to the office, or where people come in on somewhat of a rotating schedule. And, it's going to be a space for collaboration, not just a place to get work done. One of the positives and the silver lining to come out of COVID-19, at this COVID-19 crisis, is that it has demonstrated that a lot of jobs that were once thought to only be able to be performed inside the company's office are now able to be performed remote. And that's a great addition to the democratization of the workplace. Matt, can you forward on to the next slide? So This slide highlights a few things. Number one, 70% of the people want to work in the office the majority of the week, not every day, but the majority of the week. And that's a figure that's been out there and publicized by Gensler. Looking at this return to work timeline, how many people were in office right before COVID turned the US and the globe upside down? It was about 92%. Based on JLL's statistics that are out there. And as we can see, I mean, the chart over the last year and what it looks like it would be roadmap through 2021 is we'll gradually see a general uptick, coming in the second quarter, really picking up steam in the second half of the year, and hopefully by the end of 2021. We'll be back at an occupancy rate of about 75 to 80% of people that are working in the office multiple times a week. So it's definitely a unique time and opportunity where to help try to get people back in. There's 70% of people that want to be back in the office. How can we help create that mental safety net? And there's a lot of ways that technology and the innovations that we bring forth along with our partners like Poly can help create that mental safety net to create that automation and create the feel that there's not a backlog getting in and out of the office and how that office space and how the day is consumed. It really drives and helps to elevate the user experience. Rebecca, would you like to talk about some of the other trends that we have going on?
Yes, I will. Matt, if you could advance the slide. So the slide says it's collaborate, create, and innovate. And I'm here to say that the COVID pandemic won't diminish the need for the office or the return of the office. It's on the contrary. I think you're going to see a different looking office. I think it's going to look better. Starting with, of course, the health and wellness that Kevin spoke about, in the air quality and the cleanliness. That's going to be priority. But also what's going to need to change is the network. It needs to be a superior network because this pandemic has actually enticed or enforced, whatever word you want to use, that people had to use video like Poly and had to use cloud computing and everything else. So when they go back to the office, they're going to need a better network to support it all as well. So JLL did a survey, and I really holds to be true because we're starting to see a change in the change out of the offices. But the change that's going to happen to bring everybody back into the office is the socialization. So they need coffee spaces. They need to get together. I can't see everybody, but I see Matt, but I'd like to see everybody. I like to talk to people. So they're going to need a gathering space, right? They're going to want spaces that's connected with nature. I think they got, with it in the home office where they got to be by the window and they got to see their backyard. I think they want more connection to the nature. They need spaces dedicated for the individual work so they can stay focused. So they're going to need little smaller spaces, if you will. But then on the other side, they're going to need learning and development spaces. So they're going to need virtual reality. They're going to need training rooms. They're going to need larger displays, and they're going to be able to hook up their laptops and display whatever they have on their laptop. They're going to need environmental environments and experiential environments where they can bring their clients in. They're going to need that wow factor, so the people will want to come in and to see what they have to offer. And then they're going to need projects and collaboration spaces. So as you can see, it's not going to be your old office. I think you're going to see a great amount of change where there's going to be different spaces created, and that's going to draw people in because honestly, there's no reason to go in if it's just, to pack up your laptop, pack up your displays, and then go in the office. They're going to have all those tools ready and prepared to go for whoever's going to go into that office. So Matt, if you want to advance the slide. So this is another screenshot, actually, what's going to happen. Historically, 60 to 70% of the individual and support spaces, that's those individual spaces, but that's changing to be 30 to 50%. So that's a big change. So you're going to see more collaboration spaces. You're going to see more amenities. and social learning in that I talked about in this slide before. So you're starting to see this the paradigm shift of the statistics of the spaces changing. So that's going to be substantial, and I'm excited for it because I don't think the office is done. I think there's good things to come, and you know, so be ready for it. So Matt, if you want to go ahead and change it over to whoever else is going to speak, that'd be good.
Okay, that would be Melissa. Are you ready, Melissa? Melissa?
I am.
Okay, great. Let me
Thank
move,
you.
go over to yours. So Melissa with Poly is next.
Thank you. Very excited to present to you all today. So Poly, formerly Plantronics and Polycom, we've been doing our persona research for quite some time now. But recently, of course, with all the changes, we've needed to update our personas to help our customers figure out exactly what they need to purchase and what the new work style looks like. So previously, a lot of the personas were office-based. Of course, that has changed quite a bit. So these personas today, they represent about 92% of the work styles in a typical enterprise. Of course, whereas the other 8%, we do have data for the, I'm sorry, I just got a little feedback. We do have data for the other 8%, but we're really looking at those people as the office independents. So they communicate very little, not highly collaborative, and they're very task oriented. So we did not include them in our persona research that we present, or even in our product selectors for each persona. So of course, I'm not going to read through all of these, but if you have any more information or any more questions about these, feel free to reach out. Of course, we also realize that our end users do have their own personas as well. So we work very closely with our customers to fit their personas into our research and into our surveys as well. Since a lot of our customers right now are finding the need to survey their work base to figure out exactly what the next step is for their upgrades are concerned. Next slide. So this is just an example of the current product selector that we have today. This is a product selector for the flexible worker. So in this instance, what we do is we help IT managers or whoever's in charge of purchasing really find the best products for their different personas. So we make this customizable. If you have current standards that you have currently with Poly or with another manufacturer, we can transfer those over to Poly products. We can remove, add, and then as you see, we also have desk phones on here. I think a lot of to kind of go with the rest of the research that Rebecca presented, being in the office is not going away, and we're seeing a real big uptick in desk phones actually, which we didn't think was going to be happening at the beginning of the pandemic. We thought everything would be remote, but as far as desk phones are concerned, they're still there and they're still needed, as we're finding in our research as well. So again, this is just another tool to add to your tool bag to really help you find what the best products are for your environment. Next slide. And this is just an example of one of our workspaces. So of course, hybrid work is on the rise. We really are trying hard to have the same user experience, no matter if you're at home or in the office. We've heard a lot from our customers that this has kind of been an equalizer. Being everyone remote, everyone not in the office, and they want to keep that. They want to keep everyone equal, even if you are in the office and you're using the video equipment in the office, but it's going to be the same experience no matter if you're at home as well. Our particular products have always been very, especially our headsets, giving you the ability to really work from anywhere. But now, especially with the new world, the new hybrid world, it's even more important that we have that and we bridge the gap between the office and the personal space from work from home. So we've worked very closely with our unified communication partners to make sure that the user experience is the same throughout the home experience, and then going back into the office. We also have our own technology. I like to call it the secret sauce in our video product as well, and our desk phone product. So acoustic fence, making sure that anything inside your fence is heard, anything outside the fence, dogs, children, whatever it may be, are not being interrupted or disruptive into the call. Also noise block AI. We've always had noise block, which is really, it's muted your microphone if you were typing, or if you had, we call it the the chips test, the bag of chips test. So now with noise block AI, it dims the noise, but you're still able to hear yourself, and that your audio is still able to be captured. So if you're typing on the keyboard or you're eating lunch, because that's the only time that you can, you're still able to have a full collaborative experience without those everyday distractions. And so this is just an example of what a medium-sized room would look like today. We have our Studio X50 bar, which is an all-in-one codec, and then the TC8 panel. And you can get these in different flavors: Poly mode, Zoom, Teams, whatever unified communications you're using. We do have something that will help with the native experience. So it's not adding another step for those users to have to relearn or retrain how to use our equipment. And then on the next slide, this is just a large room example as well, because again, large rooms, huddle rooms, those spaces, they're not going away. And we realize that. So we've had to make sure that we do have the latest and greatest in our equipment to really help with the experience, the meeting room experience. This particular unit has content sharing enabled and built into the device. Otherwise, we're going to be using the content sharing on the user or on the UC platform. So for Teams, you would just log into the Teams meeting, share your content, and you're ready to go. With the G7500, it's built into the codec itself. So no matter which equipment you're using, or if it's not a native experience, you're still able to content share easily without running into any issues. And of course, again, we're seeing the same noise block AI with our speakers and with the codec as well. But really, all in all, what we've learned this year is that we, as Poly, as a manufacturer, we have to make sure that we're ahead of the next, whatever is coming next for us, as far as the hybrid world is concerned. And we've been doing a lot of research to make sure that Poly really helps our customers move forward, and we're not inhibiting any progress or growth. So.
Okay, Brent Stark, you're up. I'm going to go Brent Stark from AVI-SPL.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for having us today. Before I get started, I just kind of want to congratulate the state of Arizona for the $20 billion investment by Intel that was announced last week. This is a technology council, and really says a lot about Arizona and where we're headed. And so that's quite the dedication to the state. So congratulations. When I kind of think about a year ago today, we were all trying to get into this thing called Teams or Zoom. We were trying to collaborate with family members. If you recall, a year ago today, there were the videos where you couldn't see the person's face because they were backlit. A lot of times there were challenges with the network, the internet, drop-offs, all kinds of things were happening. And today we can have, close to 30 people with video on the same call. And we're utilizing the technology today. And what I heard earlier from Kevin and from Rebecca, and also moving into Melissa, was what we're capable of doing today. We're taking a look at what are the physical spaces, because a year ago, people were saying we're never going to go back to the office. Nobody's going back. And now we're seeing kind of a staggered effect of it. And we're seeing how organizations like CBRE, Cushman & Wakefield, and JLL are strategizing with their clients how to make that transition back, because commerce is continuing to happen. We just heard from Melissa, and thank you very much to Poly for the giveaways. how a really key manufacturer, key partner of ours, best of breed, is taking a look at not only, okay, here's a piece of equipment, but really what is the user experience, the UX? How are people going to move back into the office, and how are they going to then utilize the gear? And that's all great. And that's where we're talking about collaboration technology. But we kind of also have to talk about workflow. And what is workflow? I mean, workflow is, think about, most of the time I have transitioned back to the office about 30% of the time. I go, 2 or 3 days a week, which is probably a little higher than that. But my workflow was I would get out of bed, I would brush my teeth and maybe put some water on my hair and then come put on a shirt with shorts on. And I would begin my day. And my workflow would be open up Outlook. I would open up, maybe a Teams or a Zoom call, and I would begin communicating with people. And during this time, I'm interfacing from an analog world into a digital world. So everything in my life is always going to remain in the analog world, how I see, how I hear. And then the technology is converting my analog signals into digital information. And that's what we're doing right now. You're seeing me, but in a digital format, which is really cool. But it also does, what it does is it stresses our networks. And so we need to kind of take a look at how does the digital workflow affect the network? And more importantly, how does our IT departments react? Because there's a lot of stress going on behind the scenes. We take it for granted that I can launch my laptop in the morning, I can jump on a VLAN, and I can communicate to the cloud, and I can see information that I need. But behind the scenes, we really have this IT department that, when my printer doesn't work, we give them a call. When my conference room, I can't dial out because I didn't, launch the proper icon on my laptop or hit function F5, it doesn't display. Who do I call? So I'm calling this department we call information technology. And what they're doing in the background is really kind of supporting the entire organization. They're supporting the CIO, the CEO, who wants to make sure that they're getting their emails, that they're getting the proper information that they need. They're also, being impacted by those remote workers, those that are calling in remotely. And what they're utilizing is they're going to log me in or some other kind of app, sharing app of computers. And if you haven't experienced yet, it's pretty amazing if you think about it. I can have somebody halfway across the world, dive into my computer, take control, and begin to manipulate what's taking place to help me with my workflow. So these are the folks that are kind of the unspoken heroes in my mind that are out there, that are supporting all of us, that are facing customers, dealing with our internal customers, whether that's in HR, whether that's in marketing, design, whatever. So it really kind of leads me into how are they going to move forward into the future? If you haven't been aware of it, we've been talking about the Internet of Things, IoT, for the last 3 to 5 years. What does that mean? IoT really means that my refrigerator now has a chip in it that is communicating somehow to the network. And again, that begins to add stress to the network. And if my refrigerator doesn't work, that's okay. I open up the door. I don't have to see it on the front panel, but I can continue to operate. Now, if I'm in a huddle room or I'm in a conference room, or the CEO is going to do a quarterly call with Wall Street, the technology better work. If NASA or ASU is going to be communicating with, I believe it's Endeavor, probably not though, with our new landing on Mars, they needed to make sure that the communication from the analog world into the digital world and that transmission is happening properly. Maybe some extreme examples there, but they are kind of examples. So where are we seeing technology go, especially with this merge between audio, video, and IT? Where we're really starting to see that AV is being drawn up underneath IT, because IT seems to be that group that is really the forefront of what's taking place with technology today. But again, IT is just as impacted by what's taken place in the last year. They're working remotely, they're having staggered shifts. So we need to really be conscious of the fact that they also require tools that are going to be utilized in remote monitoring. So when somebody, let's say the CEO or the division manager goes into the office to do their call with maybe a remote office, they need to rest assured that they can then, activate and utilize the technology like Poly that are in the rooms today, in that those rooms were properly designed with the help of those folks at JLL, Cushman and Wakefield, and CBRE. So it's really kind of a team collaboration. And we kind of fall into that last little piece. We become the piece where we can assist with the monitoring. So as we begin very far upstream with the design and implementation of the gear, we can also, we take into consideration where are we moving as a society. I can tell you that I don't think our patience has gone up in the last year. And in fact, I think it's probably gone down a little bit in the fact that now that we have the ability to video conference over like we are today with Teams, the quality has to be there. The audio has to be there. The visual has to be there. The operation has to be there, because now we are actually getting more people onto a call. In the past, the 32 people that we have on this call today, to get into a single room, think of the amount of time it would have taken. Now we're taking a look at how much time could we be giving up if the technology isn't working properly. The other thing that's going to be very, very important, and I'll get to remote monitoring here in a second, is it's great to have the rooms designed properly, and what Kevin mentioned about, the pandemic, your strategies for any kind of natural disasters. How Melissa talked about the small, medium, and large rooms. But the other thing that we really need to understand is, how are these rooms being utilized? Are they being utilized? There has been a point where it was pretty much, if it was a conference room, let's throw some technology into it. And now we really have to take a look at, how is the technology being used? What is the technology that's being used? And what kind of analytics for a good ROI can we have behind the scenes, so that we can go to our CIO, who then reports to the CFO or works with the CFO and the CEO, to say, this is what we invested in. These are the analytics that we're seeing. We're projecting that 70% will return to work. That's probably a very conservative projection. It could be more, could be a little bit less, but I think it's a good projection. But that's what the leaders of our organizations want to see from technology. What is that usage? Because it becomes very important today that we are able to pivot. Where can we utilize the technology properly? The other thing that we need to be aware of is being able to look at that technology not only in the workspace itself, but how do we address the work from home and the technology that's located there? Because the CEOs, the CIOs, the regional managers, all of them are working from home, as well as transitioning back to the office. So we need to be able to have analytics. We also need to be able to jump in, and we need to be able to solve problems. And when I say solve problems, in our world, especially with technology, it doesn't do us much good to solve the problem once we've identified it. We need to be very proactive. And how do we be proactive on that? We can be proactive by utilizing networking and monitoring, so that we can anticipate, or we can see what problems might occur. So when that person, as Kevin mentioned earlier, it takes 16 minutes to launch a meeting. Now we are able to walk into a room and be assured that the technology is working properly, that maybe the call is set up. because I can tell you that 16 minutes after the time that they needed to launch the meeting, really there was probably about 15 to 16 minutes prior to that just setting up to making sure that it worked. So now we're taking a look at a half hour. So how do we do this? And if you can go to the next slide, Matt. We can use things that are management applications, apps. So we take a look at all of the best of breed equipment that we have out there, and we utilize the network that IT is supporting. And we have remote centers that can actually call in utilizing IoT, utilizing the network, so that we can create these analytics, so that we can show what the ROI is to our executive teams, to the regional managers, to the division managers, to say, these are the rooms being utilized. We can also take a look at the analytics to see what are some of the problem areas. Are people not utilizing something properly? Are we utilizing the lighting system and tying back to the building backnet so that we can see where our air conditioning usage is, where the lighting usage is? Are we, activating lights after hours? Can we reduce costs there? And these are all things in the IT world they want to see in a single pane of glass. And that's very important, because what my experience in working in the IT realm for about the last 5 years is IT folks, and correct me if I'm wrong if you're on the call, they don't want to have to open up an app to see a specific manufacturer. They want to be able to open up an application and see the entire landscape of what they have on their network. What is working and what isn't working? How do they work with ServiceNow? Do they have tickets that are open? But more importantly, if they're working with an open ticket, that means something has already happened. If we can go in and we can utilize what's taking place on the network, and they can see, and we can notify them that, hey, in this room where you have UC, there seems to be a problem, there's a network issue. They can make drastic and dramatic changes on the fly. So these are some of the things that we see happening within the IT world and happening on our network. So we're being proactive instead of reactive. So now we're taking that half hour for setup and launch, and we're minimizing that down. And we're able to have our departments actually have remote access in. And this is something that we call Symphony. And so we've got somebody sitting in a command and control center that actually has the ability to launch a video conference for you. If they have to drill in and they need to see that there's some kind of network issue, they can go ahead and make those changes very rapidly. So we're monitoring, and we can control the devices if that's where you want to take this usage of technology. And we see it in the single pane, but what we can also do is we can take those rich analytics and we can put them concisely into a report. We can see maybe we have a piece of equipment that's causing constant problems for us. Is it user error, which means a simple, additional training might need to be, implemented within the organization? Is it a hardware issue? Is there a piece of equipment that seems to be failing? Is there something that maybe it is a network? Is there a bandwidth issue? Because right now we're kind of transitioning from this single gigabit on the edge to 40 gig to backbones that need to be far more robust. And I'll bring up an example. I find a lot of times when I'm meeting with our clients, there is a consistent need for 4K. Well, if we're doing 4K resolution, we need probably anywhere from 8 to 16 gigabits of information across that pipe. What that really means is, I'm getting a little bit heavy into this, but what it really says is, do we need to have 4K? Is that something that could impact our network? How does that impact the IT department? Because the transition in technology now is happening about every 6 months. And Tim Cook of Apple said it. We went from basically learning what we needed to know at the beginning of March last year to where we are now. We took that transition period and just really compressed it down quite a bit. So it isn't 6 months that the technology changes, but it's usually 3 to 5 years. And now we're compressing that into 6 months. So utilizing the tactical and the strategic analytics to be able to go back and have justification. We do this internally within our organization. We need to justify why we're hiring people, why we need to have more equipment or different equipment, what can improve our efficiency, because efficiency is time and time is money. And at the end of the day, that's really what we have. And that's what we really need to be aware of. So what we can do with a product that we call Symphony is we can go in and we can monitor a facility, and we can monitor remote offices within an organization, and we can be proactive. We can set up, we can begin, and we can analyze everything that's taking place on your network, and working very closely with IT. So if you'd like, you can go to the next slide, Matt. And I think this is really key, because we started with the JLL, CBRE, and Cushman & Wakefield, and the physical spaces that we're looking at. How do we design these rooms? And what we're seeing from these partners of ours, and even with Poly, is the fact that they are also taking a look at how this is impacting their clients. With the previous slide with Symphony, Poly is one of our premier partners. We can utilize Symphony to go in and we can take a look at where the Poly equipment is, what is the life usage that it's had to date, and then JLL with Jet. They've got a whole suite of applications now where they can on your smart device, you can go in and you can start to scheduling rooms. If I saw raise of hands here, how many times has anybody scheduled the room or not scheduled the room and somebody else was in it? That happens quite frequently. And so these are things that when we talk about productivity, if you think about the number of minutes equated into hours, equated into days, that somebody has gone to a room that they've booked that's been hijacked by somebody else, where they had 5 people, they had to stand outside the room waiting for that other person then to evacuate the room. That can turn in our society today into years and years of reduced productivity. And I kind of bring up productivity today because I think probably in the last couple of weeks, our productivity has dropped with March Madness. I won't point any fingers at anybody, but you do see productivity, and productivity is really kind of the key. So Jet is an application that JLL has that's part of their suite that is an offering. So not only are we AVI-SPL as integrators looking at what efficiencies are, what kind of applications can we bring to you as clients, but also our key manufacturers like Poly. They're looking at how can we increase the productivity and the efficiency within the office space? What can we do from a hardware side, knowing that it's tied to the network? What can we do with JLL and our partnership with them, CBRE and Cushman & Wakefield? How can we work from the beginning, way upstream, to be able to utilize what the proper technology is and how your usages can be improved? So one last thing that I want to just kind of bring up, and this is, I wouldn't say very futuristic, but think of this in the next 3 to 5 years. With our transition to the cloud, we are going to begin to see a transition in our industry, what I call technology, but in audio, video, and with IT, is more of a transition into that cloud space for some of our hardware devices. The one thing, the several items that we will never, ever not have, because we're going from our analog senses into the digital world, are going to be displays. We're always going to have to look at a display, at least in my lifetime. The other thing is we're always going to have some type of microphone to go from the analog world into the digital world. We're also going to have some kind of sound reinforcement from speakers in the ceiling to my ears. Where that hardware lives, or if it is a piece of hardware, because the hardware that you see installed in a credenza or in an MDF or an IDF closet doesn't necessarily, it has software in it. So does it actually need to be manufactured, installed, or can it live in the IT space where it's living in a server and we're accessing that properly? Kind of like what we're doing today with Teams. So I think I've butted up onto my 15 minutes of time. And if you want to finish off the slide, Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you. Any kind of questions or answers that we can provide you, we'd love to hear them. I'm sure you have them. And seeing that it is the digital world, open it up. You don't have to put on video, but you can certainly ask questions.
Thanks, Brent. Carla, I was not following along with the comment section, but if we have questions in the comments, we can kind of go through there, or we can just open up mics and answer any questions anyone might have. It'd be great.
Yeah, actually, one of the questions that they had was in reference to the slides for today's presentation, but we went ahead and answered that. So if anybody else has questions, please feel free to open up your mic now.
Is it permissible that for me to ask the question to the panel?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, so let me ask the question. So everybody's listened to what we had to share and what we're seeing from the real estate perspective. I guess my question to you all is, what are you seeing? What are you seeing from the back to work strategies to everybody else on the panel? Are you seeing the same things, or are you seeing something different? Come on.
I think you all did such a phenomenal job being so incredibly clear that everybody's
okay. We're all excited to get to our next webinar, you know.
Yeah.
Well, certainly if they're, you know, I'm sure the question about the slideshow, we can, you know, distribute that, and that might generate questions that might come up as you get more time to go through there and kind of associate it with your particular strategy and your environment. We'd be happy to share any use case, any knowledge we have of the companies we work with and how it might translate to your company. So we would hopefully you'll have some follow-up questions after that. We'll have everyone's contact information, and you'll have ours, and we can certainly follow up later if something comes up.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, thank you so much to AVI-SPL, and thank you for doing such a fantastic job moderating today's virtual breakfast series event. And thank you to all the panelists. As you saw, you were all spectacular and were able to answer everybody's questions throughout your presentation on this content, on such a content on a timely subject that we're all thinking about these days. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'd like to invite all of you to please make sure that you join the technology and business community at the beautiful Arizona National Golf Club on this Friday, the 23rd, April 23rd, I'm sorry, for the Arizona Technology Council's 11th annual Tucson Golf Tournament. This is one of our in-person events, but we have many more future virtual events, and you can find those at the Arizona Technology Council website at aztechcouncil.org. We are going to be having quite a few throughout the weeks and for the remainder of 2021. So we invite you all to please visit the website and find out more about those events. But we are definitely looking forward to seeing you all in person at the golf tournament. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.